Welcome everyone. This is Chuck. I just wanted to come back. As you recall, we did a little YouTube video earlier. I announced my candidacy, talked about my running mate for President of the United States and some of the reasons why we want to be your president and be in the White House. Before we get started, let me just ask the camera lady, is this covering my whole body or just from here up?
Just
that's good because I'm not wearing any shoes, and that probably doesn't. Okay, good. Then nobody will ever be any the wiser.
Exactly.
Okay. As a result of my previous YouTube video, I've prepared some responses to issues resulting from that presentation. I'd like to point out once again that even though I'm running for president, I have no qualifications. I mentioned that earlier. I want to make sure that that's completely known. I do, however, have some ammunition. I'd like to share that with you. You see, my wife, who you're all familiar with, Gail Manizak, the co-founder of the Power and Presence Ministry, is now a highly respected, published author. That's right. Her new book, It's God's Word, Not Mine, is going to print even as we speak. It's a collection of prophetic words to be shared, and it has something for everyone. I know, I've read it. So remember, it's a package deal, this presidency. You get me as president, a former used car salesman, and as First Lady, you get Gail, a newly published minister of the Word, as First Lady. We'll balance each other out. So there are some issues that need to be addressed from my previous response. I am reading from notes. I have a notebook. We're not using a teleprompter here. This administration is already going to be looking at reducing costs. Okay? Because right now we feel that costs in Washington are just out of control. There are many troubling issues facing this country today, not the least of which is the economy. And people ask me, as president, how do you plan to improve the economy? I have a simple three-part plan, and I'd like to share that with you. It's not complicated. You see, number one, as president, I'll be making more money. And my salary will be paid for life. You didn't know that, did you? Yeah, look it up. So obviously that's going to be good for my economy. Now, once we're elected, and it's important that we elect a new president, because the current president already has everything in place. When I am elected, Gail and I will have to have Secret Service people assigned to us, as will Daniel and Vicki, our running mates. As these people are assigned, they will have to come through the workforce, thereby reducing unemployment. So you can see that your vote for me is a vote to improve the economy. We're already reducing the employment figures in this country. So my third point is this. As your president, all of my travel expenses and living expenses will be paid. Sort of like government assistance. So I'll not be a drain on the economy. It's a simple three-part plan that I think we can all live with. I know I can. Now, in order to grow the country economically, how are we going to manage to raise enough revenue to do that? Easy. If I'm elected president, I am going to raise taxes. But not your taxes. I'm only going to raise taxes on those people that don't vote for me. That'll teach them. Whew. You know, I'm already feeling a vacation coming on, just thinking about all this hard work that's coming up. Again, my qualifications have come up. and the qualifications of my running mate have come up, and we want to once again address this issue. We have no qualifications for running this country. We have none. Not at all unlike some of our past leaders up to and including our current leadership. So really you got nothing to lose. It can't get any worse. I'm not going to promise you a rose garden, although as president I understand that there is one at the White House, so I'll be getting a rose garden, and that's the important thing. Did I mention moving the White House to Ione? Some of you, we all know where Chicago is. We all know where New York is. Some of you may not know where Ione is. Think of Mayberry. Only not in North Carolina. Ione is a sleepy little town nestled in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains in California, in the gold country. It's a little town of about 6,000 people. Our biggest employer here is a California State Prison that houses about 3,000 of those people, and yes, they are counted as part of the population. I don't know why. Why would we want to move to Ione? Why do we want to relocate the White House from Washington, D.C. to Ione? Number one, Washington, D.C. is not that good a neighborhood anymore. I've been there. Secondly, as I mentioned in my previous YouTube video, I have a little part-time job up the road here at Kmart where, well, I don't want to quit that job because you get an employee discount there. So at least you'll be electing folks who work for a living and are accustomed to working for a living. Daniel works in construction. I got a little part-time job. So we're not strangers to hard work. Now, regarding my views on foreign policy, there's been a lot of talk about OPEC and the oil-producing exporting countries. We need to support OPEC. Why is this important to us? I know what you're saying. This country is sitting on 300 years worth of crude oil under the ground. Well, we have to dig it all up. We don't want to do that. That would put millions of people to work and could possibly result in a reduction in the price of gas to, who knows, under $2 a gallon. That could go on for the next 300 years, and then what we'd, by the time our great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren are flying around in little hovercraft with electric engines, they wouldn't have any oil. And without oil, which they probably won't need in 300 years, they won't be able to have a museum with oil in it to talk about how they did things in the old days. So we need to support OPEC because of that. But the more important thing, the bigger picture is, as President of the United States, as your president, really, what do I care what you got to pay for gas? Mine's paid for. I'm just being honest, folks. On a more serious note, I want to talk about education. The key to any country's success is education, schooling. This country made a big mistake when it took God out of the classroom. Our kids fell under a satanic spell when that happened. When my kids were little and going to school, there were reports that some of their classmates were bringing guns to school. Bringing guns right into the school and putting them in their lockers. Locking them up. And between classes, they'd open their lockers and call Johnny, "Oh, look at this, I got a gun here. Look at this, hey, that's pretty good." You know, the next day, Johnny wants to bring his gun and show it to Billy, his dad's gun or whatever. Show it to Billy, and word got out. People found out these kids were bringing guns to school and putting them in their lockers. So Einstein, on the school board, came up with a brilliant plan. We'll fix those guys. we'll take out all the lockers. So they did. Kids still brought the guns to school. They just didn't have a locker to put them in now, so they brought them to the classroom. Now, I'm all for show and tell, but I draw the line at brandish and shoot. So I suggest we put God back into the classroom and send the enemy right back where he came from. More pages. Notes. I don't have a teleprompter. I don't use that. That's that other guy. One of the final things I want to talk about is protecting our borders. One of the important things about this administration is going to be to reduce overall costs to this country. We can greatly reduce government expenses by eliminating the Border Patrol. Now, I know what you're saying. How are we going to do that? We're going to keep the illegals out of the country, so how are we going to do that if we eliminate the Border Patrol? Very simple. We have two borders. The southern border in Mexico and a northern border in Canada. Let's talk about Texas. Let's talk about the Mexican border. We don't need a Border Patrol. All we got to do is give Dick Cheney a 12 gauge and some shotgun shells and tell him he's going chucker hunting. He can shoot all the chuckers and he shoots anything that moves anyway. That'll take care of the southern border, right? We've eliminated those guys. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, what about the Canadian border? We've got Canadians coming down. I got that one figured out too. We're going to transfer Sarah Palin up to the Canadian border. Sarah used to live in Alaska. She's used to the cold. And we can station her on the border with a 270 Weatherby and a 5-power scope, and she can pick off them little varmints as they come crawling across the border. It'll just be like varmint hunting back in Alaska. She'll be right at home. How much is this going to cost? I'm glad you asked. It'll cost the price of a 12-gauge shotgun, some shotgun shells, a Winchester, and a few bullets. Because we don't have to pay these two people. They're public servants. So that hopefully will answer some of the questions that have come up since my last video. I do want to thank you for supporting our candidacy for president. Daniel and I appreciate you guys very much. And of course, we promise to take you on one of our many vacations. I think the current administration, from what I understand, has had about 16 vacations to date since they took over the White House 3 years ago. And I know that Daniel and I, working hard on your behalf with just a little bit of effort, can improve on that. We may be able to get that vacation number up to 20 in 3 years if we're diligent enough. Okay? So we think that we can make you all proud. We thank you, and God bless you. Bye-bye.